I am very excited to have my next guest join us. Her debut album, Guilty, is out right now. It is Loren Gray.
Woohoo!
There you are in
Hi.
person.
I know.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
thanks for playing the part.
Thank you. I tried. I did my best
I
today.
didn't see the Get Ready With Me video, so.
Today was an off day for me.
Oh, why?
I just got back from Vegas, so I'm getting back to myself.
Into real life.
Into real life, yeah, into reality.
Interesting. Vegas, that's how you celebrated 21.
I did a lot of different things to celebrate 21.
Happy belated.
Thank you very much.
There was a lot going on that I saw in clips of videos and things like that. So
Yeah.
please summarize.
Oh my goodness.
And how much planning did this take? Because going to Vegas is not a spontaneous thing.
Well, I was very lucky. Everything was planned for me because I'm not a good planner. I'm an awful planner. So it was very easy for me. I just kind of showed up, but we did a party for the album release and for my birthday. I did some stuff with my close friends, and then we all went to Vegas as a group. It's a lot.
And was it all that it was hyped up to be? Because you hear all these stories about Vegas.
It was a great time. It was a lot, but it was a great time. I'm happy to be back though in my bubble.
Do you think that you'll go there as a getaway every now and then?
No, probably not. Probably keep it to the celebrations and
Okay.
birthdays and
All
things
right.
like that. But
What about gambling? Did you get into the roulette?
I did. Roulette's not for me.
Oh.
Blackjack I enjoy.
Okay.
So I am only down $50 from the weekend, which to me is a win.
That's great.
Yeah, I was really, really worried when I went. I was like, this could be really, really bad, but only $50, so I can manage that.
Were you up at any point? And
Yes.
Are you the type that's like, all right, let's ride?
I'm usually pretty good at pulling out, but my friends wanted to stay in, and then I felt left out if I tried to pull up before everyone was done. So that's where they got me a few times. But on the last day, I won $75, and I left.
Nice.
So I was up on the last day, but overall down 50.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Very pragmatic.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
That's what I like about you. You know, I think that when people hear about Loren Gray, the TikTok, this and that, they think other things.
I'm sure.
But,
I'm sure
but
they
here
think
you
all
are,
kinds
the
of things.
pragmatic grandma saying, I won $75, I'm ready to go.
Yep, there
Let's
we
hit
go.
the buffet.
You know, $75, get a lot of things with that $75.
That's right. I also have to say congratulations on your recent house purchase.
Thank you, yeah.
There's a lot of different milestones here
There's
at
a-
21.
There's a lot of milestones. I think that this was a big one for me because I got to buy a property in my hometown. So that was exciting. And now I live half and half in LA and Pennsylvania. I don't know, I feel like there's always milestones. It's hard to kind of keep up.
But this is a big life one.
Yeah.
Real estate. You always hear
Yeah.
about it. Passive income, invest in the future, all these
Mm-hmm.
things. Who put that seed in your head?
Oh my goodness. I think I always wanted to. My goal when I first started earning money was I wanted to buy a house when I was 18. And I did. I bought my LA house when I was 18. And then I started missing home quite a bit. And because I've lived in LA since I was 15, and it doesn't feel like home to me. So I wanted to find a way to live in both and also make an investment in doing so. So for now, I live half and half, and I bought my second house at 20. So yeah, it's exciting, and I feel like I hopefully am making the right moves.
You're making the perfect move because
you.
it's also a personal getaway in a way for you to reset, be close to family and things like that, right?
Absolutely, and I love the house. I wanted an old farmhouse, so it was built in 1860. I have 5 acres of land. It's not necessarily something that I dreamt of, but I feel like as I got older, I learned to appreciate my hometown and being around family more. Especially being single, like I feel so lonely all the time. I need to be closer to my family, so I've done that, and it feels really good.
LA's a lonely town for a lot of people.
Absolutely, I'm really lucky. I have my best friends. They're like family. Their families are close to me and mine, but I do also, like, my nephews are growing up, and my parents are getting older, and I still want to be able to do things with my family while I can without getting too caught up.
There's a lot of wisdom here for 21.
Thank you.
And a few days
I'm also
old.
just very sentimental.
Well, if you talk to some other 21-year-olds, maybe online or Twitter or whatever, right, that are just like, yeah, if I was as rich as Loren Gray, I'd be throwing parties in Hawaii, I'd have this house in New York, Miami, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's different paths for different people, but my values lie with family and the close friends that I have and peace. I really value peace, and I feel like that's why I haven't necessarily always gelled with the LA scene. I think there's a time and a place, but it's been hard for me to get, I guess, wrapped up in it because, I don't know, I just really value being not just alone, but at peace and safe and comfortable.
Do you think moving here at a young age with your mom kind of helped give you a sense of peace and foundation? Whereas if you were to move to LA now as a 21-year-old, yeah, I can drink, I can do this, I got money, it might have been different.
Yeah, because I think my life obviously took a really interesting path. I don't come from a ton of money, so it was a pretty big deal that I had the ability to do these things, but because I started so young, I kind of always had it, and I was always looking for the next thing and the next milestone and reaching the next goal. And I also think because I was out here, my dad stayed in Pennsylvania while my mom and I moved to California. I really wanted to make him proud. I really wanted to make my mom proud for the sacrifices that she made to move to California with me. You know, she had to quit her job. She had to live apart from her husband and her other daughter, my sister. So there was a lot of sacrifices made that I think made me take it a little bit more serious and made me a little more cautious with the choices that I make, I guess financially and in my career. So I kind of sound like I'm like tooting my own horn right now, but it's just the way that I've always thought. And I think the fact that my parents did give up so much for me, that I have such incredible parents, made a huge difference. Not
a lot of people recognize their parents when making those sacrifices until way after.
Yeah.
They take it for granted.
Definitely, but I think that it's, and I'm sure there were times where I did take it for granted. I mean, I haven't always been as, I guess, understanding or sympathetic to their situations, especially as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, but the more time that I've spent away from them and the more that I'm able to look at the situation and see how much they've done for me, it makes, you know, it makes a lot more sense, I guess, the older you get and the lonelier you are.
You keep coming back to this loneliness here.
Yeah, but I think that's just when I started, I was always sort of relying on boyfriends and friends to fill that void because I didn't think it was possible for me to be close to my family. I thought that this was the life that I chose. And then once I was single and, you know, my friends have full-time jobs, they're busy, I think I realized how important that was to me and being there for my family, which I always have been, but even more so now.
When was rebellious, or I guess, give me a point of which you were rebelling?
17.
All right.
17 years old, I was...
really feeling yourself.
I was, but I wasn't. I think it was the saddest I ever was, and I think that translated into a bit of rebellion. And it's hard because my mom was raising a 17-year-old, or you know, a teenager who had all of the facilities to be an adult, right? I was paying rent. I was doing all the things and taking care of myself, but she still had to be a parent. And it's really, 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 really hard to parent a kid who's like, well, I pay rent. What are you talking about? So I think that was the time where, you know, my mom moved back home and I was turning 18, so she moved back home with my dad, and she gave me the space. She's like, you know what, you'll figure it out. And she was still there, of course, but that, I think, was the time where things fell apart the most because I didn't realize how much was being held together by my mom, and I took that for granted. And then when she was gone, it was really hard to admit how much she had been there for me, and all of the things that she had been doing that I didn't even think twice about, you know, taking care of my dogs and driving me from place to place when I didn't have a license, all of those things that you don't really think about until it's gone.
You were being driven everywhere?
My mom.
By your mom?
Yeah, so when we first moved to LA, it was sort of on a whim because I was so busy out here. So we moved out here, and my mom and I are both very impulsive people. Like we just get up and go. So we got up and went. First apartment we looked at, I wanted it. So we moved in, and then we needed a car. So I went to CarMax, and I got a used Kia Soul. And until I got my license, my mom drove me around in that. She took me to get my license, got it, and then I drove that car for a long time before I upgraded. But yeah, it was a hard time in the moment because I felt like I was going through all those teenage emotions with such high stakes.
Right.
And I mean, there's no handbook for a parent, you know, on how to guide a child who has all of these things and who's doing all of these, you know, things that you never even imagined are possible. So in the moment it seemed really hard, but I think that we were both just struggling with what, you know, was in front of us.
And you must have been really going through things because between 16 and 18, 20 is when a person really finds who they are, or at least figures out some aspect of who they are.
Right.
And you're being thrown in this career that's skyrocketing, lonely city, etc. It was easy to make the wrong friends.
Yeah, absolutely, and I definitely did. And there were times that, you know, things blew up in my face and I lost friends, I made new friends, and people come and go, you know, boyfriends in and out. But I think through all that, this period of my life is when I've been doing the most reflection, because now that I've given myself the opportunity to be closer to my family without work involved and just go there and be there. I was home for Easter, and I felt like I had to remind myself that I have a family, because sometimes when I'm out here, my friend, she lives with her parents and they're going to, you know, horse races and the movies with their grandparents. And it gets really lonely. So it's nice to have that reminder now of like, you have a family who loves and cares about you, and they're right there 6 hours away. Flight. But.
Yeah, you definitely have gone through different things as well as your career.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Which has led to this debut album.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So if we look at, let's talk about this period of time since we're there. You know, 16, 17, 18, you were signed to a major label. Mm-hmm. They kind of force-fed you songs, and you didn't really have a semblance for your voice,
right?
Let alone songwriting.
Yeah.
What was your vision when you first signed to the label? Because I feel like that when you're an influencer, when you're not in the industry music industry to begin with, and they're like, yeah, come along for the ride, all your dreams will come true.
Right.
They're kind of selling you.
Right, and that's exactly how it was, I guess, presented to me as, all your dreams will come true, and this is the moment. And
did they promise, or not promise, but did they say you would have a lot of control in terms of songwriting? And because, you know, that's a skill as well.
I feel like that's not something that's talked about. You just kind of assume, at least for me, I assumed wrongfully that because I had worked so hard up until then, and obviously beyond then, but because I'd worked so hard and everyone knew who I was already and knew what I had to say and knew my story, I thought that I could easily translate that into music. And then the roadblocks came, and then the narrative was changing, and that's when the songs that weren't really me and things that I didn't really believe in, or, you know, it's hard to promote or push music onto people that you don't even believe in, that doesn't feel authentic to you to begin with. How are you going to expect other people to buy into that or believe in that? So that was the hardest part for me, and obviously that lasted, you know, the 3 years that it did. And for some people, it lasts a lot longer. But that was never my vision or my goal. And to be honest, I was very malleable. I was young, and I was looking for direction. But I also wasn't looking to completely change who I was. And direction and change, everything that I've built are two very different things. So that was definitely the hardest part. So
how true is my story?
Oh my goodness, I cried the night that song came out. I felt like it was way too, I guess, immature sounding for who I wanted to be and who I already presented myself as. It would be different if I was coming up out of the blue, coming to the label saying, make me someone. But I'd already established who I was, and people liked who I was. So I felt like it was unfair to change that. And my story was just the beginning of a long journey of songs and looking back, it's cute. I was young, I was 16, but in the moment, it upset me because it wasn't me, and I could feel that. So
even then, it didn't take you long to figure that out.
Not at all. No, I've always.
You grit your teeth every time you hear it.
Yeah, I've always known what I wanted, even if I wasn't completely sure and needed a little bit of direction. I always knew who I was. And yes, it's always changing and evolving and growing, and I'm always making mistakes and learning. But at my core, I can make decisions for myself. I don't need someone to create my persona. I already did that. I already know who I am.
Right.
So I feel like that was the biggest issue that then, translated into me going independent and taking that route.
Which is very similar to different other personalities that were also famous or notable online, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just talk about Maggie Lindemann and Madison Beer, who just released a book and detailing her journey and so forth.
I feel like this is the issue that keeps coming up, especially with young females in the music industry. And it's really frustrating and upsetting because you have, really brilliant, creative people like Maggie, like Madison, who all have the same story. And I can't speak to their stories, I can only speak to mine. But for me, every meeting I was in with a board of men who were all 50, 60, 70 years old, basically calling me dumb to my face in so many words. And my current manager, she met me in one of those meetings, and they had brought her in as sort of, we don't know what to do with her, figure it out. And she told me in that meeting, I've never seen an artist spoken to the way that you were spoken to. And I mean, they told me, you just can't make bad music. And I always felt dumb. I always felt like I didn't deserve a seat at the table when I had already done so much, and I wasn't even giving myself credit anymore because no one else was. And like you said, the story is the same for so many brilliant, creative, talented young women who aren't heard.
Right. Yeah.
And it's upsetting.
Yeah, and that's why I was very eager to speak to you, because I feel like this is a story that other young women online and that have followed you need to hear from you saying this, vocally.
Yeah.
Because who's the next person that's going to be roped into it and going through the same process?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's frustrating. Even one of my close friends, her sister, wants to be an artist, and she's very talented, and already there's people trying to take advantage of her. And she's young, and she's fresh, and she's new, and I feel like so many people don't see that side of the music industry, but record labels aren't doing what they used to do. They're essentially a bank. They rely on you to promote yourself, market yourself, create your brand, do all of the things, and then they sit back, they pull you in once you've done the work, and they say, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like what you're doing now. And then they either put a halt to your entire career, which is what happened to me. It was so many no's, make better music, that then nothing was happening. Or they give you the money up front, which is enticing, and it's exciting. For me, I'd never seen that much money. But then you're sacrificing everything that you stand for creatively, with your narrative, everything. So it's record labels aren't what they used to be, and I wish that that message was pushed more, because I feel like there's so many vulnerable young people who want to be artists that get roped in under false pretenses.
Right. And it's very interesting how the industry is now looking at TikTok to help guide them in finding the next big thing or who they want to
Absolutely,
bring
because
onto their
it's made
roster.
it's made their job so easy.
Yeah.
You know, all the work is done for you.
Yeah.
The public has already picked who they like. You just have to sign on, throw some money at it, see if it sticks.
Right.
And if it doesn't, well, they're on to the next. And it's really interesting, because I felt like at the time when I was signed to a label, it was all about trying to strip my social media image, right? We can't have you associated with being an influencer anymore. You have to be a music artist. It was suggested that I deleted all my posts and started fresh as an artist, and I was never willing to do those things because I'd already built my identity. I wasn't gonna turn around and become someone else, like I said before. So now it's really interesting to see the evolution to TikTok and how, most of the time labels just cash in at the right moment, and then if it doesn't work, it's your loss.
Right, right.
So-
And they're forcing established artists to go onto TikTok to try to relate to people,
Right.
Kind of the inverse of what you have done,
Right.
right?
And
You started out relating as a general 13-year-old, in the middle of nowhere, and hello, this is my day, and so
Right.
forth and so on. And by the way, I like singing.
Yeah.
Versus artists who write songs and then, let me just use TikTok to relate to people and
Right.
go that way, right?
And I think that another thing that I wish people talked about more, first of all, I feel like artists, influencers, everyone's so multifaceted now, because the internet has given everyone an opportunity to experiment with different things, try different things, show different sides of themselves. And no human being is only good at one thing.
Right.
Everyone's multifaceted. Now you can just see it. Now it's there. And that's one part of it that I wish people understood. But the other part of it is that regardless of how someone started, whether it was writing songs or whether it was being an influencer, I feel like I've had to prove myself a lot of bit extra, that I actually love what I'm doing, and I wish people saw the work that went into it, because I feel like it's so easy to consume something on social media and make a comment and forget about it. But so many of these people are working so hard, and a lot more people are independent now because everyone's kind of catching on to the whole game. So there's a lot of talented people who are working really hard, and I feel like although it's easy to be taken advantage of, I think the internet has done wonderful things for people's abilities to, break out and try different things without a label pushing it,
You just mentioned about how we're all multifaceted. What's one thing that you wish people knew about you that they don't know about you?
I mean, there's a lot of things. I wish people knew my heart. I wish people knew about how I cared about people, and sometimes I wish people could just live with me for a week and see how it really is.
Is that good or bad? You make it sound...
Both. It's human.
Yeah.
And I wish people saw that. And I also wish people knew how much I love writing, how much I love music. I feel like there's only so much that you can show on social media. But I also never want to get to a place where I'm trying to force people to believe in me or force people to, you know what I mean? I do what I love and I put it out there and it'll reach the right people. But I'm also in a very, very privileged position to be able to do that. I feel like everyone should be able to do that. And I feel like it shouldn't be frowned upon for people to really expand their horizons, because that's what social media has done.
Right, right. Do you look back at your TikTok career and wish or think, what would it be like if you had presented yourself as a songwriter, singer, as opposed to lip syncing and having fun? I know you were 13 at the time.
No, because
Because then someone may say, okay, well, I see a history that she was serious.
Right, but I have thought about that, but simultaneously, I wouldn't change anything about my journey that I took to get here, because I think it would have been incredible if people had heard my voice and heard my music sooner. But alongside that, people just saw me. They just saw me growing up, making mistakes, and they related to that. And they also got to see my journey into music and the not so good parts where I wasn't really a good writer, didn't really have a voice, wasn't the best singer, and I'm still not, and I'm still growing. And I think that's what's special about my journey, and I wouldn't change that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Because you're at a certain place where you are on purpose. You know, I don't want to get too existential, but you kind of create your own path. Right?
I always get existential.
Yeah.
Every day.
Are you into existentialism? Do you read up on the works of Kierkegaard and
now you're
other
blowing my mind a
philosophers?
little bit, but I'm always thinking about, I feel like the only way that I'm able to stay sane is to think bigger than me.
Yeah. Well, existentialism is basically like we're a blank canvas, right? And we're just charting our own path. There's no guidance in terms of a higher being, or we're in a simulation. I don't know if you believe we were in a simulation or anything.
Is simulation existentialism?
No, simulation is kind of like this other power, this other force that is basically creating everything that's going on right now.
Right. Yeah. My dad, he loves to go on like quantum physics rants to me quite often. So I hear all about simulations and particles and slit theories and everything.
He's very scientific.
Very
He's in
much
the science
so.
field.
Yeah, my dad's very scientific. My mom's very spiritual. So I hear both sides of things, which is great. But makes for a really good conversation.
Totally.
But I personally, for myself, believe that everything that has happened in my life, there's so many things that shouldn't have happened. And all of the things that happened that weren't so good, that I think that everything molded me into who I was meant to be, and it's going to continue to be so. And my mom told me yesterday, because I was having a crisis, I was like, Mom, I'm never gonna find a boyfriend and I'm never gonna get married and everything's so hard right now and I'm stressed and on tour I'm having all these bad dreams about tour and I'm scared. And she said that, she's like, my dad always told me, and I never understood it until now, but she said, all you can do is your best, and your best is all you can do. And it's true. It's all you can do. And then whatever happens is what's meant to happen, and that's the only way I'm able to stay sane, because otherwise I will work myself into the ground. I'm my biggest critic, and most of the time I hate everything I do, but it's the best I can do.
Are you an overthinker?
Oh my goodness, yes. I haven't slept in like a week. All I've done is think about all of the things that I have to do, and it's really hard for me to relax. I've had the worst dreams every single night. I wake up like 5 times a night because I always feel like I should be doing more. But the place in Pennsylvania has also made a difference for me because it's given me a chance to, I don't want to say disconnect because I feel like that term is overused. You never really disconnect, but relax. And I don't really relax either, but it takes me out of the environment that and changes things up for a brief minute before I have to get back into it.
Right, right.
And that feels really good.
Yeah.
With the trees, more oxygen flowing in my brain.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's the way humans reset, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's been good for me. Not everyone can just buy a house in the woods, so that's, I'm really, really lucky to have that privilege. But it has been really good for me, even just going on walks with my mom and talking and remembering that I am Loren and I'm more than this.
Right.
I'm more than my work, I'm more than my career, and it's really hard to remember that, but I try.
I can imagine, especially in this city of LA, that it's just like, you're reminded all the time, right?
Yeah.
What have you been doing? What's going on? Who are you going to see?
And it's that like hustle culture
Yeah.
of you have to always be chasing the bag. You know, this person's doing better than you, step it up. Work while you sleep when you're dead. And it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
So I try to stay in my bubble as much as I can and do the best that I can do for myself.
Which is definitely seen on this album.
Yeah, I hope so.
If we kind of circle back to that, because you did break away, you charted your own course with this album. You worked with someone that we know here on this program and that I've spoken to many times, in Dasha.
Oh, yeah.
Who helped you write a lot of the songs on this album.
Yeah,
who
she
was
wrote
going
quite a
through her
few.
own, personal thing and released her own album.
Yeah,
and it
she's
seems
her
like
own
that
thing.
she really related to your personal issues and relationships that you wrote about.
Yeah, there was a lot of great people. Dasha, her brother Bardo produced the entire album, and he's incredibly talented. Amelia Moore, who has her own project, she just released a song with Jaden. She's on tour right now. Incredible. I was very lucky to work with such talented people. I still keep up with Amelia. She's so brilliant. So it was a really liberating process, because I got to actually be in rooms where I was heard for the first time and not looked down upon. People wanted to hear what I had to say, and it made me open up more. And that's when the best music is made, is when you're in a safe environment, a receptive environment, and we had a really good time.
What song really speaks to you even now to this day?
Oh my goodness, I go through phases.
These songs were written quite some time ago, right? It's been a 2-year process.
It's been a 2-year process. The last songs were written, I want to say, less than a year ago, so it was a long process. Guilty, it's the title track of the album. That song was the turning point for me. It was the first time where I really, really opened up and said things that I never even thought to say in a song, about my personal mental health journey and things that I'd been through. And then Misery Loves Company and Enough for You, I wrote the day after I was broken up with. So those ones were fresh, and we just cranked them out, and those are probably my 2 favorite songs on the album, because everything was so...
Those are my favorite too.
Yeah, they're so timely and fresh, and,
Yeah.
and you feel it.
I felt the hurt.
Yeah.
Enough for You.
She was
just
hurting.
the title alone, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm in for it. Just looking at the title and then listening to it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different really cool things about that song, actually, because we wrote that song the day after I got broken up with, and no, Misery Loves Company was the day after. Enough for You was when we were on the rocks, and I had a session that day, and I was reading my texts from my ex-boyfriend to, everyone that was in the session, and I had been out, and I was texting him why can't you just say that you want me to come over? If you want me to come over, just tell me. And he was being really weird about it, and so we just took messages. He lived on the west side, that's the opening line of the song, and I just pulled directly from that song, and then I showed it to him, because I do that with all of my songs, because I'm a psychopath. I showed it to him, and I was like, he came into the studio, because he had dropped me off to write that song, and then he came back, and he's whistling on the song. We pitched it around, but it was him whistling.
That's him whistling?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
It's pitched and different, but yes, he did go into the booth to whistle on the song that I wrote about him. I didn't explicitly say it was about him. Now he knows.
And how does he feel about it?
I don't know. We broke up. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess if anything came out of that relationship, it was a banger, because I love that song.
Yeah, and the different sounds on the album is definitely prominent as well. So it's not too far removed from the major label stuff, but
Right.
in the same way, you're kind of breaking out into different sounds sonically. You've spoken about Taylor Swift as an idol, and you look at the artistry of being a songwriter. Now you're in the industry now,
Right.
technically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are the other artists that, along with Taylor, that kind of influence you, inform you, help guide you?
I mean, I pay attention most to the artists that I've always been drawn to my whole life. Eminem is my favorite artists of all time, and a lot of times when I say that, people look at me sideways. It's like, you? Him? But Taylor, Eminem, they all of my favorite artists have something in common, and they're lyricists. And not only that, but they're authentic lyricists. Eminem's, although I don't agree with everything he's ever done, you can't deny that he's a brilliant songwriter. Same thing with Taylor. She's a genius. And that's something that's been the hardest part for me, is letting those walls down and writing the music that really speaks to people, because I built those walls up so high when I was signed and avoided that part of myself. So now I'm sort of retraining myself, but I always go back to artists like Taylor and Eminem, who just write what they feel, and that's it, and who they are is what they are. And that's the most inspiring thing to me. Less about, making a hit or having the hottest music video, but speaking to people the way that they did. If I'm going through something, there's an Eminem song for it and there's a Taylor song for it. And they've been through it, and I relate, and I feel like I know them. And that's always been my goal with music. I love music, but the connection that it brings is so special and unmatched. You can act and touch people in a way, but the script has been written. Music is so raw.
It's interesting because a lot of times people will say songs say things that they can't say verbally in person. You say everything on socials.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah. So what facet are we hearing and seeing of Loren in your music that we're not seeing in these little video clips?
I think I say everything on socials to a degree. I think that I tend to keep my personal life off of social media, especially the older I've gotten, the more I've started to value my privacy and keeping certain aspects of my life for myself. But through my music, I can open up about those things in a more artistic, indirect way. It's not drama, it's art, and it's a craft, like you said. It's something that takes time, and I feel like with this album, it was the first time that I've actually opened those doors and opened those floodgates for myself, where now I'm writing music on my own in my house by myself, and being around those people that made me feel heard and made me confident in my ability to write, translated into something that I always had. I always wrote poetry growing up. My sister told me I couldn't sing all the time, so I didn't sing a lot. I sang when she wasn't home with my karaoke machine. But
what songs were you singing?
I had Little Mermaid soundtrack and Fearless
I was
CD.
about to say it had to be.
Yeah, so it was Taylor and Little Mermaid. Those were the only two I had. But my confidence was really shot, and then especially when I got on social media, the confidence went even further down. So, it took being in the right environment under the right circumstances to believe in myself and be confident in my abilities to write music, and that's sort of where I'm at now, and the album was that turning point for me.
Confidence is something you build up throughout your life.
Yeah, I'm confident in every other aspect, but I also felt like I'd been put in this box my whole life.
Right.
Especially once I got on social media, it was very much so, you can do nothing because this is who you are and this is all you are. And it's hard because, like I said earlier, everyone's multifaceted, but this was something that I was so passionate about. But then my confidence just got shot over and over again, as a kid. And then when I would, post a video of me singing when I was 13 and all the comments were negative, I would take it down and then move on and keep it to myself. And then the label telling me none of my music was good enough, okay, go back to keeping it to myself. So that was the first time where I was like, maybe I'm not terrible. And maybe I do have something to say that's worth hearing. And I couldn't be happier with the result, and I'm so excited to make the next one.
Which song are you the most proudest of?
Oh my goodness. I'm proud of them all in their own ways. I know that's so cliche.
Well, how about this? Which song was the toughest to write and release? because maybe it was so raw, maybe it was where you were most vulnerable?
So there's a couple songs. Let Down and Never Be Perfect are two songs that I feel like unintentionally were the most vulnerable. Guilty, I set out with, okay, this is the song I want to open up on. Never Be Perfect and Let Down were sort of unintentionally that. And I realized as we were writing how self-deprecating I'd become. And obviously I wrote the songs and I finished them and I released them because they're a part of my journey and how I was feeling at the time. And I think that's the most beautiful part about music is I can look back and say, wow, why was I so hard on myself? Because the whole song is just me saying, you know, I'm gonna let you down and I suck and I'm terrible to be with, and none of those things were true, but just the things that come out of you when you're writing, sometimes you don't even realize you feel about yourself. So I think those were kind of like my reflections slapping me in the face, being like, hey, let's be a little nicer to ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been a lot of growth since then. And it's hard to have people hear that side of you, especially when I present as so confident. And
Right.
Sometimes I feel like my music is quite the antithesis.
That's why I ask,
Yeah.
right? It's a cathartic process as well as a process of these little snapshots of your feelings in 3
Right.
minutes that someone hopefully can relate to.
Yeah.
You performed on socials, but have you performed in person to large crowds? You're about to hit the road with Hunter Hayes.
Yeah, I have not. I have in a sense. I went on social media tours when I was younger, 13, 14. I went on these meet and greet tours. And the first one I ever went on, I was 13. My mom came with me. And I wanted to go because my priority, the best part of it for me always has been meeting fans in person. COVID was really, really tough because I didn't get to travel and do the things that I wanted to do, and it put a hold on things. But I went on tour and it almost felt like a talent show. Everyone had to like figure out what they were good at and do it on stage because there had to be a show. And I told my parents I'd come up with this idea that I was gonna sing. I was gonna do a cover of one song. It was Vance Joy, Riptide. And I was gonna sing that song for 30 shows.
Did you play ukulele too?
No. With these nails, it's a
You
little
had nails
tough.
at 13 years old?
Oh yeah. I got receipts, for
Excuse
sure
me.
I did.
Excuse me.
For sure, she's always been this way. But I went on tour and my parents were like, I told them I was gonna sing. And they'd never heard me sing,
Really?
I'd never been in any talent shows. I was always
But you weren't singing around the house? You weren't the ham during holidays?
I
family
did. I
get-togethers?
would have my mom and dad had heard me sing like karaoke in my room, but never in front of people. There was so many opportunities for talent shows and things. I would never participate, deathly afraid. So they were like, oh, no, maybe not. And because they were trying to protect me. And I was like, no, I want to do this. So I went on with this kid, Sonny, who's so incredibly talented. He played guitar, and I'm really grateful for him because having him there with me made things so much easier. And I was not a good singer. I was 13, so I look back and it's cute, and I was having a good time. But I'm glad that's out there because you can see the journey. I used to hate it and run from it and cry about it. But now, looking back, I appreciate it. So I did that for 30 shows, sang one song. I didn't have any original music. And I did that. And then the next tour, by the time the next tour came around, I was 14 and I decided I wanted to make music. After that, I felt like I could do it. And I sort of broke the one thing that was always holding me back was I was afraid of what people might think. But I had a good time. So I was like, okay, I can do it. And then the next tour that I did, I just hosted because I wanted to save it. And I've been saving it ever since. Now I'm 21 and COVID happened. And
That's why I'm asking, because
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen clips of
I
you.
performed in Japan
Okay.
at like a festival, but those clips don't really make it to the US. It kind of stays in Japan.
Well, this one's going to be different. This is your own original material.
Yes,
right?
and that's the most exciting part. That was, in Japan it was too. I did 2 songs. But again, I was with the label. It doesn't really count to me because at that time I just felt like I was playing a part.
Yeah.
This is a lot more nerve-wracking and anxiety-inducing because now people aren't judging what the label's putting out. They're judging me and what I made. And it's also someone else's audience, right? And Hunter has a very different audience than I do. He's a country artist. I have a few country-leaning songs, and that's something that I'm passionate about, country music, my farm, my truck, everything. So, yeah, I've been really nervous about it, but I'm excited because I feel like this is the time where people can actually see what I'm capable of.
You got to do things that make you uncomfortable.
I know, and that's the scariest
That's how you
part.
grow.
I've had so many nightmares. I've had so many nightmares of going on stage and there's like 3 people in the crowd. I've had nightmares about mics not working. I've had nightmares about people, you know, reading comments. I've had nightmares about every possible scenario, but
I don't think 3 people are just going to show up to Hunter Hayes' show early. I think
it was
you'll
a
be safe
dream.
there.
I think I'll be okay there, but
or maybe performing for 3 people is a good thing. You should do a surprise show in a
maybe
bar.
those
and just,
3 people will love me.
Yeah.
But
have you thought about that? What would your alias be if you were to like, all right, let me practice, let me rehearse in some random bar?
oh boy, I don't even know. I basically do. When I went out on my 21st birthday, I think that would maybe classify as, you know, going out. And
well, you were very vague earlier. Please
Oh, yeah, no,
divulge.
we went to a cowboy bar, and it was really fun. I made a lot of friends that night. And they called it the last real honky-tonk in LA. So I was like, that's what I want to do for my birthday. There was maybe 20 people in the whole bar. It was a huge place. We had a great time. And I was on the stage and doing my thing.
Singing covers?
Just singing along, but I always put on a show. But yeah, it's a little bit more serious now. But I'm excited to even see what I'm capable of. I haven't really gotten the opportunity to do that ever, at least on my own terms. So that's gonna be different. And
well, set your expectations low. You don't want to get too crazy, right?
yeah, but I also I know that I'm capable of a lot of things. I know that I'm capable of you know what I mean? I feel like I've always held myself to a really high standard, and that's helped me a lot. So I just have to keep reminding myself, you know, you're capable, you can do this. You've done a lot harder things. And also, like I was saying before, I'm more than this. So if everyone hates it and I go out and everyone thinks I suck, I'm still me, and I still have my houses and my family, and I'm good.
And your truck.
And my truck.
That's
I'm
right.
good.
That's right.
I have my dog and my cat and my friends. And I can
And
write
the
music
nails.
on my own. And my nails. And I have, you know, at the end of the day, if I could write music and it would, you know, at least for myself, I would, you know, even if no one was listening, it's still something that I love
And something
doing.
you're proud of, and that's what matters,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's what art is. It's for you. And if people relate to it, if there's a universal truth that they find in it, then even better.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoy doing it. I'm passionate about it. I love it. But I've had to rearrange my way of thinking into, I guess, realizing that it's my worth isn't based on what people think about my music. I'm a lot more than that.
I have confidence in you.
Thank you.
We just met, and I'm all on board.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Congratulations
that.
on everything.
Hop on board the train.
I'm one of the angels.
We love an
I am
angel.
declaring it right now.
We love it.
Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate the time. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
It is Loren Gray, right here on B-Sides.
Woo!